Good morning, everybody, into the stars and more mind-shattering revelations never before considered that reveal the roots of the mass sacrifices. Today, we're going to look at Pearl Harbor, and we will actually see part of the date of Jesus' life within the Pearl Harbor date of December 7th. Now, before we go on to that, in this video, we talked about March 29th being the day or the day after that Jesus was in fact crucified, and using that calendar date and building Jesus' life around that date, we come up with amazing revelations. We see that he actually witnessed eclipses on all the dates that you see listed here, which confirm the March 29th date, as he saw an eclipse at 9 years old and 36 years old. But here's what is even more amazing. The date of Sandy Hook. And this is how truth works, you guys. It unpeels like an onion. And it just reconfirms and reconfirms. And these dates he saw an eclipse, December 14th, were 20 years apart in his life, at 3 years old and 23 years old. And how many children died on December 14th at Sandy Hook? But it gets even more interesting. This scenario has Jesus at a lifespan of 40 years old. And we know that a pregnancy, the gestational period, is 38 weeks, but it is 40 weeks from the last menstruation to the average childbirth. And that was a foreshadowing of the 40 years old that Jesus would be at his life on this earth. But here's where it gets just amazing and fascinating. At 38 weeks, the last menstruation occurred. Now, I come from a women's healthcare background. I was a pharmaceutical rep. I sold birth control pills. I had to know this stuff inside and out. And at this last menstruation, a few days after the menstruation is starting to cease, and we have the development of the egg that would be fertilized at this second week after the last menstruation. The egg development starts a few days after, chemically, in the body. So what does that mean? What am I getting at? Well, if we take Jesus' birthday of 9/11, we'll use 2014 just as a reference point, and we subtract 38 weeks, we get December 19th. But if we subtract 40 weeks, which again, that was the last menstruation, remember, we get December 5th. And if you add a few more days onto this, which is when the egg from which Jesus would be fertilized would develop. Now, we know there was an immaculate conception, but all of this is symbolism, you guys. It's all symbolism to point and reveal the truth, even though the conception may not have occurred in exactly this manner, because it is an immaculate conception. We know that God would always show a mirror to us so that we could relate to him. So December 5th plus 2 days is the attack on Pearl Harbor, the third and final false flag that overlays Jesus' life. So we had Sandy Hook during these two eclipses. We had his crucifixion or first day of death on March 29th. And then the very last eclipse he saw was on 9/11. And that covers all of the false flags, the mass false flags in United States history. Now, who else was born on 1 Tishri? Because 1 Tishri actually gives us a 9/11 date, as we discussed in a previous video. And it shows that here. 1 Tishri gives us the new year of the Hebrew calendar in the year 3756. Okay? Remember that date. 3756, and the year prior was 3755. But you also know that Ethanim, which is this date, which is again 9/11, 6 BC, that fits right into this scenario. Ethanium is the Canaanite name given to this month. And it just so happens that Ethan Hawke, that's Ethan Hawke was born with 55 days left till the end of the year. So Jesus was conceived in 3755. You see how there's the Antichrist opposites, the mirror. This is what they do. Satan has a counterfeit for everything. Remember, we saw this, that Tishri 1 is also the new year of the Hebrew calendar for this year. And the number, it's the 7th religious year, and the month has 30 days in it. And there's your 73, which again fits back into this 3773 scenario. Okay? Now, it gets even more strange and interesting. Again, I just showed you a 9/11 date, the new year, which falls on September 11th, which is when Jesus was born. And we saw the 55 there. Well, guess what? Who else was born on 1 Tishri? According to Wikipedia, it was Adam and Eve. And in the Gregorian calendar, it was 3760 BCE. 3760 BCE, 1 Tishri. 3756, 1 Tishri, September 11th, for Jesus' birthday. Jesus came to right the sin of Adam. And finally, an amazing thing happens that reveals the grandeur of the creator of our universe. When using the date 9/11 and using the full gestational period of 38 weeks, which is the time from fertilization to birth, we get December 19th. Now this is 3 days before the darkest day of the year. What better way to illuminate the world and save the world by countering the darkest day of the year? But this is what's even more interesting, you guys. When you take this date from 9/11 to December 19th is 38 days and 2 months, mirroring 38 weeks of the full gestation of a human child. Again, 9/11 to December 19th, the gap is 38 days, which mimics a gestational period of a child and mirrors it at 38 weeks. And when you divide 38 by 2, the halfway point, it is 19 days. And again, that reveals Jesus' true birthday of 9/11, encoded in the 19 days. Simply amazing. So there you go, you guys. All the false flags covered within Jesus' life. And it overlaying perfectly with the pregnancy timeline. And again, as I always say, you can't make this stuff up. Take care and be safe, you guys.